Good day everyone. Today we are looking at what is branded as the best value for money knife on the market, right? The RUIKE P801SF. And this knife has been out for a while and I sort of just skipped over it. Thought it was just about like the hype. It's not really that great and stuff. And yeah, the stainless steel scales and stuff like that can be more on the heavy side. But let's unbox this. This is an unboxing video. It's not a full review. We're not going to go into the specs that much. I'm just going to check the knife out and tell you guys what I think about it as a first impression. There's been a lot of hype, right? Many knife reviewers out there have branded this knife as best value for money knife. And I wanted to find out, is that actually the case? Or is it rivaled by something else out there? So in the review video, I will compare it to some other knives that I might feel is a better option or an alternative. Either way, I think this is a good knife from what I hear. And the price on this guy, 550 Rand, so about $30. And you can, access that in South Africa. I know Defcon has one, Blades and Triggers have, and then also in America, you'll be able to find these quite easily. So let's take a look, guys. At first glance, the box, packaging, delivery, presentation, whatever, it's, for the price, it's okay, but it's not nice like the very nice pickled steel box or Kaiser's boxes or anything like that. Very plain forward, plain and simple. Okay, we have some flyers here with some other knives from RUIKE. I honestly didn't know RUIKE has multi-tools. That's something I must look into because I'm quite fond of multi-tools. The pamphlet doesn't say collector or enthusiast. It says tool, right? When you see this, you think, it's a beater, it's a tool, it's, not really for collecting or for enthusiast purposes. Whereas something like this screams enthusiast. It's exactly what we want as enthusiasts, that premium feel for a budget price. Or even this, it's fantastic with the extra screws and pocket clip, Torx bit, pickled steel, just knocking it out of the park. I love it. Okay, first impression, I like the look. I don't think this is going to be for everyone, however, but I think this is a pretty good looking knife. I like the stainless steel. It is less reflective than it might seem on camera. Stonewash finish on the scales. Let's open up this knife and see what the blade looks like. There we go. Okay. Definitely reminds me of the Rat 1 with regards to the blade, that full flat grind blade, the shape, that very standard blade shape. Definite reminder of the Rat 1. And also the pickled steel Ghost, which is, they are basically the same size. Same style of blade, standard, slight drop towards the tip, but for the most part, standard blade shape, full flat grind, that sort of thing. We have a little bit of a switch here on the Ghost. If you haven't seen this video on the Ghost, go check out the review. I think it's branded on the thumbnail something like Master, the Master of EDC. This thing is a master of EDC. It is extraordinarily affordable, fantastic action, lightweight, just everything you would want in an EDC knife. It's also coming out now in jade and in red. I'll just put up a photo. Very nice. Awesome flipper tab, love it. Love the Ghost, man, it's fantastic. Okay, so the blade shape, very versatile, good for basically any cutting task. Maybe not as good for utility cutting. We know that the Worn Cleaver, the sheep's foot, that's going to be your go-to for work like that. Something like the Penguin. But very versatile blade shape. I like the jimping, that's good. They did a good job on that. And I think that's phenomenal. It's good jimping. It's very comfortable. Not as aggressive as maybe Honey Badger jimping or some Kaiser jimping, but it's pretty decent. So I think very comparable to the pickled steel pen, which is again phenomenal knife. Very similar jumping right there. Guys can see there. So not as aggressive, like not going to irritate you, but still going to provide you with some great grip. To get a nice trigger hold. No, I don't. I take that back. You can't use this as a trigger as with some other knives like the Halo. The way it sits in your hand, it provides you with that trigger option. The Wahoo, not the Halo, the Wahoo. So Is it a problem? I don't think it's a problem. Let's check the pen. The pen, you can also sort of use it as a trigger and not get cut. This thing, you are going to get cut. There's no way to hold it without your finger pressing into that corner right there. It's just not going to happen. The way it's curved, your finger just want to slide into the blade. So don't use it as a trigger. Definitely not the best then with regards to choking up on the blade. You get enough grip on it. But yeah, the flipper, yeah, I don't know, man. I felt a little bit of a hot spot right here when I opened it at first. It's got good action. It's drop shot. Runs on ball bearings, but this flipper is not great. Let me just compare it with the Ghost here, because I think they are quite comparable in design. The Ghost, the way the flipper is designed, with your finger, if your finger goes for it, it just sort of slots in there. There's nothing pressing into your finger. It just rests on it, which is awesome. That's definitely something you want right there, right? That slide curve down, not 90 degrees, just place for your finger to slot in. With this guy, you have that 90-degree corner, and you're basically pressing into two tips right there, which is very uncomfortable. Your finger doesn't get in there. You're basically working on that little nick right there. Focus up. Come on. But yeah, right there, that little nick. So uncomfortable. Definitely not going to be your fidget knife, that's for sure. But good drop shot action. Let's see if we can open it with the reverse flick. That's good. Okay, the reverse flick maybe works the best in my opinion. And I do like the reverse flicker knife to deploy it. Interesting though, because Metal Complex, like one of the biggest knife reviewers on YouTube, he said that he is unable to reverse flick his P801 RUIKE, right? And I don't see why. That is because it works fantastic, definitely better than the flipper. Let's check the thumb flick. Yes, man, that thing is not going anywhere. Okay, so thumb flick on my side, the thumb flick doesn't work. On Metal Complex side, the reverse flick doesn't work. Don't know why the reverse flick is. I imagine the thumb flick is because the way you're holding this knife, right? I have a few frame locks and they sort of solve the problem in different ways. But the way you hold the knife, when you go for the thumb flick, you're pressing the knife into your fingers, and the fingers are pressing up against the frame lock. There's just no other way to hold it, right? Your frame lock is pushing the detent ball into the blade, which causes a resistance that can't be overcome, and you're stuck with being unable to deploy it. That is not good. That is definitely not something you want on a knife. And CRKT solved this on the Pazoda by placing the pocket clip, you know, tipped down. So obviously not ideal for most people, but that did solve the problem, because when I hold this, my fingers are pressing against the pocket clip and not against the frame lock, so I'm not pressing that detent ball in there. So yeah, I have a few other frame locks that I'll show in the future that also solve this problem in different ways, but that is not great. You don't want a deployment option that you can't use. Now, maybe if we switch down a little bit, okay, now we can do it and it works great. But so you maybe just need to figure it out. But I don't want to, especially on this knife, I don't want to sit back here to deploy and flick open my blade, because this thing is slippery as hell. So if I'm on top of a ladder or, you know, working in a difficult space where I really don't want to drop my knife, yeah, I don't want to take the risk of holding it back here. I want to get a full grip on it and deploy it out like that. So yeah, if you switch your fingers back, if you just sort of stay away from the detent area of the frame lock, you'll be able to flip it open. And it works perfectly fine. Runs on ball bearings, works great. So, but yeah, still not the way you'll be used to. You'll need to get used to that for sure. Overall, the design, I think, is pretty nice. I think very uniform with the two-tone look of the blue pivot collar, thumb stud, anodized pocket clip, pivot collar, thumb stud. That's very, very nice. And this thumb stud, I mean, it's worlds apart, but it sort of reminds me of the Sebenza. And yeah, that blue little thumb stud right there. So definitely not even close to the same specs or anything. It's just a wacky thought. It reminded me of the Sebenza. So yeah, stonewash finish on the blade, stonewash finish on the on the scales, and I definitely like the Stonewash. It hides the scrapes and all the scratches and stuff very well. It's not a very deep Stonewash, so you'll probably still be able to see it if you look for it. But for now, it's holding up fine. And yeah, I think this is quite nice. It's not very heavy, so that's just for first impressions. This is what I really like. The lockup is fantastic. Okay, this knife is not moving. It is locked in tight. So definitely a good worker with regards to that. I don't see it coming loose quite easily. The pivot is nice and flush with the scales, which is cool. The access to the frame lock, you have that jumping there, which is nice and soft. It's not irritating your hand or too aggressive. But that would have been a problem. If they didn't put jumping up there, it would be very, very slippery, very uncomfortable to try and decompress that frame lock. So yeah, I think good job there. Great lockup. This thing is more than 50% lockup. So very, very nice lockup on this knife. I think that's phenomenal. As no over travel stop, I really don't like the boarded out sections on the frame lock. I think they could have done it a little bit more neatly, but for every step on the knife that would take extra time, you're paying extra money, right? That's just the way things work. It's T6 body screws here, T6 on the, maybe not, let me just see. Okay, let's just check. This is a T6. Yeah, T6 on the body hardware. I'm thinking probably T8. Let's see on the pivot. Yeah, T8 on the pivot. This knife is going to be quite durable, being a stainless steel, or I think it's like 5CR or something scales. Very durable, a little bit extra on the weight. But here's the kicker, right? These scales are quite thin. And when you look at something like, for example, let's take the Nebula from Pickled Steel. You have very thick liners on the Nebula. So you're basically getting, the same amount of durability on both of these, because the liners are basically as thick as the scales on the RUIKE. So yeah, that's just interesting concept. So the durability is not going to be more than the Nebula. Maybe on the lockup slightly, not sure, but yeah, overall, I think it's a great knife. Blade steel is 14C28N, and that's just awesome, man. Awesome steel. I use that coal basically every day. I think 14C28N is probably the very, very best budget steel you can get. In my opinion, it doesn't hold an edge as long as D2, but it's easier to sharpen. It's more corrosion resistant, and yeah, it's just a breeze to work with, man. It's fantastic. I've had this knife for some time, and I haven't sharpened it, and it's basically still as sharp as the day I got it. So I used it a lot, and it still almost has a mirror polish right there. Works great. Definitely can't recommend Darkal enough. It's getting a smaller brother now, the RUIKE T and the RUIKE D, which is in D2, but also button lock with my Carta scales. Very interesting. Yeah. Okay, so fantastic steel on the blade, fantastic blade shape, love it. The jumping is done fine. The ergos is okay. It's like a 7 out of 10. So yeah, it's slippery, but it doesn't feel like it's gonna slip out of my hand. Yeah, I think a good job on the pocket clip. I wish they sort of just used flat screws there. I don't get why they did that. They sunk in the pocket clip, but then they used mushroom screws for the pocket clip. Don't quite understand why you would do that, but either way, it's gonna work okay. Yeah, I think that will be just fine. There's still a lot of room in there for your clothing to go over, so that's fine. So, why do I hate? I hate the deployment. First impression, I hate the deployment. Yeah, it's horrible. I hate the sort of fact that you can't really choke up on this knife. And I hate maybe the cutout of the frame lock. Not a fan of those little bored out, drilled out pieces right there. I think they removed like quite a lot of material on this guy, which wasn't necessary. So yeah, what I love, the lockup. I love the lockup. I love the overall design and look of this knife. I think it's great, and I love the blade steel. Right, that's the stuff that I love. I also like the scales. It's something different. It's something else. You know, there's so many knives in G10 wood and micarta, and you know, it's fantastic. It's great, the carbon fiber and stuff. But I haven't had a knife in a while that that actually has, you know, steel scales, and sometimes that's something I enjoy. So yeah, might not be for everyone, but I like it. Also, the look is maybe not for everyone, but for me, I think it's quite a versatile look. So it's a cheap knife, and it does give you multiple options of use and carry. So for that part, I do see the value of money, but I do think there's stuff out there that maybe if you just spend an extra $50, it will be better. So yeah, we'll discuss this knife in full and do a complete review on it. But for now, guys, have a knife day, and remember that no knife means no life.